Hey, this is Sean.
And I'm Gwen from Frayle, and you're listening to Vulgar Display of Podcasts.
Welcome to Vulgar Display of Podcast. We have Frayle on the line, and we have Gwen and Sean. How are you doing this Saturday morning?
Great.
Gwen is currently covered in cats.
Yeah.
Cats. Awesome.
Solid start to the morning.
Yeah. I'll just jump in with the juicy stuff.
Yeah.
What is this rumbling that we've been hearing about venues taking 30% of merch sales?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So it's 20 that we've experienced, and it is kind of standard practice for larger venues to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, typically that's in your contract and pre-negotiated before the tour. The last time, our big experience with it is we didn't really have contracts. We weren't the headliner, so we got there and then just were approached by a lot of these venues to say, hey, by the way, we're going to take 20% of your merch sales. And that's something we never really experienced before. So that's
right. And we think, honestly, it's kind of, it's a ripoff for, the fans who are there to see the bands. And I mean, it's an antiquated practice, and it started really
when like hardcore straight edge bands would go out and the venues weren't making any money
because they couldn't sell booze.
Yeah,
right. Sure.
Totally makes sense in that situation. But to just kind of keep it going and do it to everybody now and almost make it standard practice, like it hurts the bands and it hurts the fans. It's not fair. And the venues will say, oh well, if it wasn't for us, then you wouldn't have a place to play. And then might come back to that as well. If you didn't have bands here, no one's going to come and buy your $10 beer.
Right. Your $10 beers, your ticket sales, your $18 waters. I mean, all that adds up. We are there for you guys and the music and the bands. I want you to have my money. Like, prime example, we was recently at the Rob Zombie Mudvayne show. My buddy was getting a Rob Zombie shirt. I'm like, that's pretty sweet. I'm like, but I want to give my money to Mudvayne. Rob Zombie's got all that director money. I want my money going to Mudvayne. I don't want the venue or anyone to have it. I want it to go to them.
Yeah, it's tricky, so it's just something that we noticed on the last tour, and something we wanted to talk about. And I saw that article, that we posted on our social, and that came from a magazine that I think was talking about what's happening over in, I think, UK. Mm-hmm. It was, the bands were getting together and signing petitions and things like that. And so I just thought it was worth sharing. And it just, transparency is always a good thing. So I just wanted to put it out there, especially when there's, music fans, money involved in a time when, ticket sales and making money as a band is harder than ever. So why
Absolutely.
not,
and then
put it out there.
All the bands that have just came off of, being off for all these years of COVID, these couple years or whatever, not being able to tour and not having that, access to selling the merch and touring. So,
and I think it's a double whammy, because I mean, it's one thing for someone to take, part of the door or whatever, or work that out, but they're taking your likeness. Like, that's your merch, that's your image. It like crosses another line for me. And it's just wrong. I heard that. I saw that on your socials, and I was like, I got to bring that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost standard practice now. Not every venue does it. And there are some venues like, Machine Shop in Flint, Michigan, for example. Kevin, the owner, is like, I will never fucking do that to a band. He's very adamant about not doing that to any band ever, and which is great. And there are other venues out there like that. A lot of the smaller venues, like on, smaller club circuits, don't even get into that. But once you start getting, the opportunity to play bigger stages, then you have bigger headaches, I guess. More money, more problems.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So since I glossed right over it, I have with me Dale Stotler, the Dale Stotler. And we have Sean and Gwen from Frayle.
Yes.
We've been so excited to have you guys on. We've been listening to your music all week.
Yes.
And, to me, when I hear it, I think, I think, well, of course, I love the female voice over the doom. Mm-hmm. It's like this hypnotizes me, and I just love it. My kid loves it. I was the one that posted on the social media my autistic son singing along with your music.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
That was amazing. Yeah,
yeah.
Such a cool moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's hooked, and I'm hooked.
Yeah.
And so
we all are
super excited to have you on.
Oh, thank you.
That's a big honor. We just were doing an interview yesterday where they were asking, the question was something about bands outside of your genre that you're fans of. And, one of the things that I've always been impressed by is when bands can relate to different age groups in the same family. So like grandma, mom, and daughter all at the same show, like all getting different things out of the music. So, for you to say that you and your son are getting into it, I mean, that's a pretty huge compliment for us. So thank you.
And I think the reason why it works for, and I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but he has an autism diagnosis. And like what I love about doom music is it hypnotizes me in a way. It's like a sensory kind of thing, and I think that's why he loves it. So anyway, just thanks for existing. That's all.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. Yes.
Thank you. There's a lot of space between the notes in what we do to make the listener almost. A fast music, it's bouncing your head around the entire time and just like a roller coaster. Like, what we do and what other bands like us do, I feel like there's a lot of space, and it gives you a lot of time to think and process in between the notes. Like the space between is the hypnotizing part. So I think that's awesome that you point that out.
Yeah.
You are really hearing every part of each one of your songs. Yeah. Like you said, it doesn't just speed right through like a lot of the metal we listen to. It's just slow, and you hear every part of it. And it's very hypnotizing.
It's like sensory overload, so much stuff. And I just love, like I said, I love the space.
The perfect blend.
So I wanted to ask you, does writing music ever feel like a job? Do you ever struggle with motivation, or are you just driven to write?
That's a great question, Gwen.
Gwen, you're up.
So what I'll say is that it's easy for me to write a melody. Like, generally how we write music is, we both have a library of, hundreds of song sketches and, so then we get together and we kind of, because we do everything separately, we'll get together and we'll figure out which ones we want to flesh out. So, I'll sing a melody over Sean's riff or whatever. And so that's pretty easy to me. But what is difficult is because, my lyrics are so personal, and it's kind of like my personal story out there for everybody to, read and look at and listen to, that it's very personal. And so sometimes it does become very, very difficult to be able to get that down and to put it out there. So like this last record, Skin and Sorrow, I mean, it was me at my most vulnerable, and, knowing, like, writing it down is one thing, but, making it pretty and, and again, knowing that everybody's going to hear it and know your deepest, darkest parts of things that you went through is another thing. So that can sometimes be very difficult and taxing. So I think Sean is very prolific, and he doesn't have a hard time, writing a bunch of stuff. But yeah, that's where it's difficult for me.
Yeah, I'm in our studio. We're fortunate to have our studio in our house, so everything that we record and mix and master is all here. So, and it's always on, ready to go. And so it's easy for me to just go sit up there, and if I'm playing guitar, I can just press record, and then sometimes that stuff ends up on a record. But for Gwen, like I'll come down and be like, okay, you gonna go sing? You're gonna go, I have to push her a little bit, and then that's not always easy when it's also your partner in life. So you don't want to, push them too hard. And so for me, I'm sitting up there and stuff's just coming out. And for Gwen, the stuff just comes out, but it comes out on her phone. And so it's almost like she has to take an extra step to go put it into the computer. So I think that sometimes is what could feel like work, I guess, because my stuff's just coming out. Our computer's already on.
Right.
For her, it's like, oh, I'm in the bath, or I'm walking, or I'm sewing, or I'm doing this when, ideas are coming out. So she has to go take another step. It's not like I'm at Target and I have a riff and I riff it into my phone. It's like I'm already in the studio,
Right. Hey, Gwen, do you ever use that against him? Like, if you want me to write, you better take the trash out.
No. No.
Have you ever done that?
No, but now you're putting ideas in.
Yeah.
Hey, I got your back. I got your back.
I used to play in a band with my wife, and it's like it was the same thing, and it felt like, for us at least, it almost sucked the joy out of the making music together, because I would have to like, okay, it's
almost force,
we gotta, I want to have this done by X time. Like, do deadlines ever, are they ever a problem? Like, do they ever kind of suck the joy out of making music?
I don't think so. Like Gwen said, we do everything separate. We learned really quick that we can't sit in the studio and try to jam together because we're both like kind of alphas, I guess, in our own way, and that shit just does not work for us. So
at least
we
you
got to
figured
get
it out though.
Way.
Yeah, like you have your dance routine now, like you know how it goes.
Yeah, because it was just like, it was at first kind of like, fuck, I don't know if this is gonna work, but now we get out of each other's way, and it's pretty fun. And I think deadlines are actually the only thing that make us finish things.
Yeah,
like we had to set a deadline for ourselves for the first record.
Yeah, nice. I mean, I don't deal well with like strict deadlines, but if we have kind of a loose deadline, then we kind of know what we're aiming for and we're good to go. But I think, sometimes a strict deadline is probably important.
Yeah, for Skin and Sorrow, we had that. Our label was like, we have to get it delivered now, which was a year ago. Just that's how vinyl is and everything. So we had to, get it in. And so that forced us to finish, that one, I think. But I don't like working like that. Like, we have the luxury of recording when we want, and it feels like when we get close to deadline, we start rushing things and trying to finish multiple things in a day. That's just not, for Frayle, that's just not like when we're at our best. So we try to get things done ahead of time prior to a deadline, but there still are usually deadlines.
So number one is it being right, and perfect.
Yes, end of the day.
Yeah, I gotcha. That's great. Speaking of lyrics, we've been listening, like I said, all week, and they seem to be heavily influenced by, I would say, like underdog stories or like sort of triumph of the little guy. Do I have that right? Is that a correct assessment?
So, that's kind of, I guess, a big theme in my life. I'm always going to root for the under guy. I'm always going to, champion the underdog. So that's a big thing. Also, it's a lot of, I think it's just exercising my demons, so if I'm like, this song, this record had a lot of, sorrow on it, and tragedy, so that was kind of coming out more. I think 1692 was very definitely, more towards about people who have been, marginalized in some way or kind of pushed to the outside. That was, me trying to champion them and give everybody a sanctuary, a place where they can go and feel safe inside the music. And, I think that, like I said, I think that's kind of an underlying theme of, most of the lyrics. So, yeah.
Great.
I had a question. So of all of the songs in the world to cover, why Johnny Cash?
It's a classic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know the answer because it is Johnny Cash, but I was just curious of all the songs.
So when we did that, our label was doing this thing where they were picking each band on the label, and I think it was like every month or every couple of months they were having each one do a cover from the 70s, I think. So they told that to us, and we didn't listen and just we just looked at old songs.
Yeah. And you're like, Johnny Cash, Ring of Fire.
But we were listening to songs, and we're probably going to talk about bands here that aren't cool, but I always think about covers that really help bands in their career, right? Like Orgy and Blue Monday, or Marilyn Manson and that Eurythmics song, which I'm blanking on right now. But so we try to think of like, what's a song like that we can do that is not in the 80s, because that was the assignment, although there's lots of songs in the 80s we'd love to cover. So we did the 70s, but we were just like, screw it, we'll go back earlier. And we just started listening to that song, and we took it apart and replaced those mariachi trumpets with like spooky guitar bends and reverb. So it kind of started as a thought process, and then I think we had a couple that we tried, and that's just the one that started working for us, because a lot of times what happens is we can't, like, a lot of songs we like have major scale parts in them, and I'll do the music, and Gwen will I'll spend all day with the music, and she'll come up to me, she's like, nope, too happy, and just leave, and I'm crushed.
Then I'm crushed. Nope, too happy.
Yeah, she's a dream killer with the riffs.
That's great.
But she's usually right too. Like if if she hears something I don't, because as playing music can kind of get lost in it and lose perspective. So she'll come up sometimes and, be like, nope. And then usually she's right. Not all the time. that's for the record, not all the time.
Right. Sure.
But yeah, so that one, I think, started gaining some momentum. And then when she figured out her vocal melody, we were just like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
On.
Yeah. It was perfect. It's so perfect.
Speaking of new music, this new album, Skin and Sorrow, it's due out September 23rd. Tell us about this record. How long did it take to make? Because I had read that there were some production issues and that it was delayed for a while.
Yeah, so we delivered it a year ago. I think it was like August, over a year ago, July, August of last year. And then it was supposed to come out July of this year, but because of vinyl, we had to push it back till September. But to make it, so that's just the actual producing of the record. For us to record it, I feel it was another year.
It was probably about a year. Yeah.
Wow.
There's kind of a famous thing with Willie Nelson. I love Willie Nelson. He famously said that he got his greatest song ideas, that every hit song that he had ever written was while he was driving. He got the idea while he was driving. Yeah. And it's something, there's some kind of science behind it where, something a part of your brain shuts down and it allows your creativity to come forward.
Open up, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Where do you get your best ideas?
So that totally makes sense for Willie Nelson because he sings and plays guitar, right? So he's doing music and lyrics and vocals in his head at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Since I'm not writing the lyrics, and that's totally Gwen's category, and also vocal melodies is not my job, so I can't conceptualize a whole song at the same time. So
yeah,
for me, writing riffs is I've been playing guitar for forever, so I try to look outside of the genres that we're usually labeled as, so
mm-hmm.
I look at Billie Eilish arrangements, or I look at my daughter got me into this band 21 Pilots, and just things that don't make sense for our genre, but I can really respect the production
mm-hmm.
or the way that they treat a verse, which is something we focus on a lot. Choruses always get all the attention, but verses for us are also equally important.
Mm-hmm.
So I get inspired almost by a vibe that I want to make riffs that have this net result. You know what I mean? And then I'll go and goof around, or I get inspired by bands that are in drop tune below us. We're in drop B, maybe they're playing drop A, G, something like that. And how they're able to create space with a simple riff, and then they put stuff on top of it. So
yeah,
I look at it more like the ingredients pulled apart that went into something in a vibe,
mm-hmm.
And I think that's what inspires me, and which is completely probably different than the subject matter part of it where Gwen comes in.
I had heard, or I had read somewhere that you like to use combo amps on your record. Sometimes the combo amp recordings end up on your records.
Yeah. So Eric, our previous bass player, had a Fender Twin, which is a small combo.
Yeah.
It's probably a normal size combo amp, but when you're used to playing 412 full stacks at 200 watts, anything under that is small. If it's not taller than you, it's small.
Uh-huh.
So he had a Fender Deluxe, which is a single 112 combo amp, and I never really messed around with those, but I really got into it. And that's our song Skin and Sorrow. It's all, except for the chorus, it's all small amps. And then because he had that Deluxe, I got a Fender Twin, which is a 212 combo amp. And combo, for those non-guitar player, just means that in the same box you have the head and the speakers. When you look at full stacks, you have the head separately on top, and then it's sitting on top of boxes of speakers, and that's what we play live and I normally play. But yeah, those combo amps, and talking to other friends of mine, been playing guitar for a long time, and our usual full stack guys, it's a lot of fun to spend time and when you're not trying to blow your head off with volume and pushing air, the sounds you can get out of there and the clarity and the way that it makes your pedals sound differently is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have access to them, and you have you're fortunate enough to be able to play a full stack and a combo amp, it's really fun to blend those two together, and let them do what they're supposed to do. I don't try to make my big amps sound small, and I don't try to make the combo amp sound big. I let them, big ones sound big and the small ones sound small, and then putting those together, I think is pretty interesting to me, and something we're definitely looking at exploring further as we are starting to now work on our next record.
Question's actually more for Gwen. Do you like putting the meanings of the lyrics out there, or do you prefer to keep them sort of semi-vague and let people, the listener, derive their own meaning?
Yeah, I think it's more impactful when you leave them a little vague. I can tell you a story about what my lyrics mean to me, but if you're I think it's more important that when you're in your room by yourself and you're having a day and you just want to lay back and listen and relate to somebody, I want you to be able to listen to the lyrics and think that I wrote them specifically for and about you.
Right.
You know?
Right. Love that. Love that.
And it does come across that way. It really does.
Absolutely. So when we do these interviews, I always like to ask, so what are you guys listening to right now?
What are we listening to?
Well, I've been working on my hours to become a Reiki master. So I've been doing a lot of
Wow.
Okay.
I've been doing a lot of meditating, and so I've been listening to a lot of ambient stuff just while I meditate. So that's the what's on my playlist lately.
Yeah.
There's this band Ether Coven that I'm into that just came out with a new record, and there's a couple songs on there that I'm super into. That I think they're usually screaming, but there's a couple songs where the guy's singing. I'm into his voice, and then they're one of those bands that tunes low, but there's a lot of space still, and so I'm into that. It's hard for me to be moved by music where there's meaningful lyrics that are affecting my life. I almost get moved more by like the vibe of what's happening, and that could be just sonically sometimes, so yeah, that's this band Ether Coven I'm pretty stoked on right now.
Cool.
How did you come to cover Bauhaus?
That, to me, that was like the first song that I ever heard that really moved me. Like, I was in high school and I was listening to our college radio station, and that song came on, and it literally changed the trajectory of my life,
Yeah.
Love it.
So I thought it was a very important song. I actually didn't want to cover it because I thought it was just too important and too pivotal a song to cover. I didn't want to mess it up in any way, shape, or form, So, but Sean pushed for it, and I think it sounds really good. So I'm happy with the result.
I love it. It sounds great, I love. It's just always so fascinating to hear how different bands reinterpret a classic.
Yes, how they hear it.
You just did a beautiful job with it.
Yes.
Are we going to be seeing more Doom Lessons guitar videos?
That's a funny topic. So I love doing that stuff, but Gwen has a ratio of Frayle video stuff versus Sean guitar stuff that she likes to maintain on her YouTube channel.
I just want him to put it on a separate channel. I encourage him to do it. I just don't think I want it on the Frayle channel.
I love when people bring it up though, because like we were just on tour with Cradle of Filth, and some guys were like, "Yeah, those guitar things. That's what got me into your band." And it happened once when Gwen was there, and I was like, "See,
bingo, yeah."
I'm not saying I was right, but
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it does make sense to put it on a different YouTube channel. But I'm into sharing that kind of stuff, and I've been thinking about that more lately because there's a lot of, since we mix and master everything, there's a lot of stuff that I do that I think would be helpful for other bands. My concern is that if you start focusing more and more on putting out their content that is based on how stuff is made, you almost become known as they're just the stuff that is made, and then for fans that go to see the show, it's like too much of the veil has been lifted, and the fog is removed, and as Gwen said, people like a little bit of distance or space between the meanings of her lyrics. I think the fog or a veil in front of everything is always a good thing for a band, an artist, a book, a movie, and anything like that. So because it leaves a little bit more open to interpretation. So that's the hesitation I have from just diving into that, because I don't want to shift the focus of what people are into us for, or remove that veil, if that makes sense.
I totally understand, because it's like when I'm making an album, something, or working on something, it's like I'm sending my friends little demos and tidbits.
Yeah.
And by the time it's actually finished, they're like, you ruined it by showing me all the.
Yeah. Now I've heard it all.
The scaffolding, and now it's.
Some things you got to keep the cards close to the chest.
Yeah. It's like, to me, when I listen to your music, it makes total sense to have a female voice over that kind of music. But Gwen, do you get tired of people bringing up or pointing out, it's like, yes, I'm a girl,
right.
Do you get tired of that coming up?
Yeah, I have definitely encountered misogyny and, things like that. However, I think, my outlook has never been to focus on the problem, but to focus on the solution. So
Well said.
if, so like, I don't dwell in that. And I just kind of like, I don't even think it gets a second thought from me. It's just kind of like, okay, well, there's a problem. What do we need to do to get over this problem, instead of sitting and thinking, oh gosh, this person, blah, blah, blah. It's just not who I am.
Right.
So I know it's out there. I know we've encountered it, but I don't know. I don't sit in that stuff.
So
yes, kudos to you.
We've been on tour and been doing Frayle for a while now, and I had this other band that I was with back in like the early 2000s. It was a hardcore band or a hard rock band, and we would tour some bigger acts. And the way that Frayle is treated, and the biggest thing that I noticed the difference is watching Gwen after we play. We usually go to the merch table, and she hangs out there, and we sign autographs and stuff. And
very cool.
Watching her walk through the crowd as soon as we're done, people treat her like a goddess.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And like my old band, we would play the same show.
Fuck these
we're
guys.
A bunch of dudes walking through the crowd. Nowhere near the same amount of respect or like get out of the way or like,
can't
oh my
even
God,
get a high five.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So to me, I see it as like the opposite, but I'm not Gwen, and I'm not picking up on every little thing that happens, because sometimes with some people, like you get to a big venue and there's crew there that's loading you in, and like sometimes there might be a little bit of that, or like we have had I think with sound guys, sometimes.
Oh, for sure.
But I see more of the opposite side of it. You know what I mean? I see more of like a holy shit, worship the ground.
That's
that you
her.
walk on.
That's her right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because no one's fucking saying that's him when you're a dude band. Unless you're, unless you're Guns N' Roses.
Yeah. No shit. Yes.
Yeah. That's great. I'm glad to hear that it's not, a huge issue, because it shouldn't be. And I just, it should be like, as it is, that it is a human making music. Like,
yes. End of the day. Yeah.
So you have an album coming out September 23rd. It is called Skin and Sorrow, and it's on Aquilam Records.
Yep.
And
Lay Bear Recordings in Europe.
Okay. Lay Bear Recordings in Europe. And we're so excited. And,
absolutely,
we're going to be pushing this record and encouraging people to go out and get it. And now that it's done and it's released to the public, how does it feel? Is it like dropping your child off at kindergarten, or their first day of school? I mean, how does that feel to work so hard on this work of art, and then now it's everyone else's?
So I think most of the time when you're releasing stuff, when you're in it, when you're working on it, every song is the best song you've ever heard, and you're like, oh my God, this is gonna blows my mind,
change the world.
Right. And then when you're done with it, you've listened to each song so many bloody times in the car, on different speakers, on headphones, like you're sick of it and you don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Now the difference is, it's been more than a year, and so now we're excited about it, again. So we really want to just get the bloody thing out there, and so I mean, we just want to release it on the world.
Yes, and we're ready.
Like Gwen said, we have some space now because these songs are over a year old for us. So and I don't know if we've ever even listened to the whole record consecutively, because like we have it all on Dropbox files. So you always have to hit next or go find the, whatever. So we don't have a playlist where it just goes next. But the response to the singles has been really good. And, we always try to put a lot of work into our videos to help grow it. Cause if, during COVID, you can't tour,
right?
We can't control that part of it, but what we can control is, content that we put out. And so we spend a lot of time and invested in it. We have just as much video equipment as we do fucking recording equipment, which is fun, but super expensive.
Oh, sure.
So the response to those things have been really good. And, we've been growing and, recently got picked up by the Oracle management, which is awesome. And I think that's as a result of the new music that we're putting out. So it seems like we're heading in the right direction and we're excited, but we, like Gwen said, we just want the whole record to get out there so people can hear everything that we're up to. Cause we have grown a lot from the last record and we're eager for people to hear what we've done and feel that kind of reaction. And then also we're already in the middle of writing the next one. We'd love to put out a record a year, but because of COVID and vinyl, I don't know if that's gonna be possible.
Yeah.
So we've already got some new stuff in the works, right?
Yeah.
Is that our scoop?
Man, there's like 80 sketches, and then we put them in a folder that we call selects, which I think right now there's 30 in that folder, which Gwen goes and does vocal melodies on. And so we're already moved and shaken on the next one.
Beautiful.
We're pumped to hear it all. Yes.
Well, Scott and Gwen, I am so glad that we got to talk to you today.
Is there any socials that you guys want to share?
Any socials, anything you want to put out there for our listeners?
Yeah, our main, probably Dinosaur, but our main social platform is still Instagram. So it's Frayle_band or @Frayle_band on Instagram. And then our LinkedIn or the bio and our link in bio, whatever that's called, that's really good. So it has all our videos, our press kit, things like that. And then we have a record release show in Cleveland on September 23rd, the 24th, the day after the record comes out. And then we go to Europe for 3 weeks to play Damnation Festival and some club dates and another Glumar Festival in Germany. So we have a lot of stuff coming up.
Yes.
And then we're told that we're going to be busy this spring and summer, but we don't know. We don't know what that is yet.
And Sean, I have to pause and apologize to you, sir. I have been calling you Scott the entire freaking time. And
that's okay. Gwen was just laughing at me every time you did it.
It's one of my best friends is a Scott, and it rolls right off the tongue. And I am so sorry.
Yeah, that happens all the time. Not really, but
not really.
Fine.
Not really. Well, thanks for making me feel a little better.
Right.
Yeah, it's fine, dude. No worries.
Thank you guys.
I'm here. This will make you feel better. I'm so terrible with names that I'll know someone for years and I won't know their name. So what I do is I use Gwen as like a shield, and I'll be like, "Oh, hey, this is Gwen," and then I hope they say their name.
You're right.
And then
yes,
then I can remember it again.
They're
so
like, remember me? It's Scott.
Yeah, names just get in the way of stuff. So no big deal.
Yeah.
Man, you just went right along with Scott. You were just like, okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Hey, you folks, Gwen,
yes.
Sean, I appreciate your time this morning.
You so much.
I know you're super busy, and it's Saturday morning. It's the weekend. Thanks so much for spending some time with us.
We appreciate your time.
We look forward to that new record.
Yes.
And man, keep in touch. And I hope if you folks come through this area near St. Louis, you know that you've got friends here. You got a place to hang. I hope you stop by the barn and come see us.
Yep.
Great.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having us, and thanks for doing what you do.
Yes, absolutely. Enjoy your weekend. Take care.
Yeah, enjoy your weekend.
Right.
Thanks so much. It's an honor.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.